So why the need for this project? The best thing I can think of is a quote by Jonas in 2018 that states, "Equity, diversity, and inclusion are important concepts for all organizations and workplaces to understand and incorporate into their workplace." Ah, was the problem with our school is we had groups, we put them together. The problem was is that we never get past what Tuckman refers to as a storming stage, where people are just butting heads, and it got to the point we would get somewhere and start addressing diversity issues in our school, and a couple people in the group would butt heads, and when we think we got it figured out, people just take a further step back, and a couple of rams just charge at each other, and it was getting us nowhere in our progress to being better suited for our students, better suited for our staff. Diversity was looked at as an issue that you just throw money at a problem, hire a few people that it will fix itself and go away. And this isn't what diversity is about. So we had to go find a new method of going about bringing people together. And we had great people. We had, people that are educated, knowledgeable. They have the grit to get things done, but we just lacked proper leadership to get all the methods and processes in place. So then decided that we have to address this because public schools are nothing but a melting pot of multiple backgrounds. Not only when it comes to the staff, but also our students. And what brings all this together is our unique diversity, and what unites us all is our differences. As much as people thinks it drives people apart, it's actually what brings us together. And so that we needed the proper leadership and the proper direction, how to bring these groups together where we can actually start putting together some policies, some better things that we can actually take into the classrooms. And that's why I felt that Tuckman's model was best suited for our school. The proposal for implementation of this process is actually relatively simple. I use this all the time with my students, and even as administrator, I split my time back and forth. Is simply wake up. I tell kids all the time when I start introducing something new to them, I always get, "It's so hard, we can't do it." And then I bring up the analogy of putting a man on the moon. Is when we really start thinking about it, wow, that's unbelievable that we are sitting on thousands of thousands of gallons of jet fuel, and they light it on fire, and all the things that could go, all the mathematical equations to get somebody on the moon, get them off the moon. To me, that just blows my mind. I think that human capabilities could do that, but when you really start breaking it down into the fundamentals, it was relatively simple. It all started with somebody waking up in the morning. A simple step like that. If you don't wake up, none of that other stuff gets accomplished. Started by somebody waking up. So that's what we're in the process. We started in this when I started implementing this, and administration asked me to start implementing these ideas into our diversity group. Is I started small at the very beginning, and then the second part of this is we had to do key figures, and people that we decided to be key figures is that we need to involve leadership. Leadership has to have an active role. They have to know what's going on. They got to be part of the implementation process, and they need to be, lack of a better word, they're our cheerleaders. They need to be, and I shouldn't use the word ours because it makes it seem like we're two different teams of staff and administration. But I'm using ours as as a school, as a unified body, and as part of the strategical strategy leading into our key step number 3 is that we had to implement all three. We had to implement all levels of school. We had to make sure all departments had equal voice, say, and that everybody felt part of the process. That they weren't just being talked at; they actually had active input into the group. And this is so we had representatives set up, and then we took it to the next step, and that was our next step of implementing Tuckman's model. Now, Tuckman's model it's been criticized for its simplicity, and but when you really start thinking about it, some of the easiest things in life have the simplest answers to them. with things that tend to be overthought. And it was Jim Collins who stated, "Get the right people on the right bus." It's as simple as that. And when it comes to Tuckman's model, and I'm kind of simplify it for you, is it's this when you start group development, it's all about forming, getting the people together. And this is the, what lack of a better word too, is the kumbaya stage where everybody's hugging and everybody's friends and everybody's getting along. It's not until you get to the storming stage, which pretty much every group gets to, and pretty much the majority of groups fail at, is the storming stage. This is where people start butting heads, and this is where our group in our school was at prior to me bringing this idea to administration, is that people just had different ideas and they didn't know how to constructively argue with each other and to understand that it's okay to have different opinions as somebody else. I mean, we just look at our own government right today, is that they're going at each other and they don't understand that we could still get along even if we have different opinions. And this storming stage is where so many people, and it doesn't matter if education or business, fails because they can't get past the differences that they have. Now, our group, we were able to get past this. We were able to work through our differences, and in some cases, we agreed to disagree. But we were able to come together and shake hands, and that was the furthest we've gotten in 3 years. And that led us into the norming stage. And the norming stage is where we started, putting things together, and we started going through different ideologies and how different ideas can come together. And then we started putting this whole idea of performing, where we started putting things into action. That our group was just not a group for a group, that our group actually had solid purpose. And this is the stage where we are currently at in our school of implementing different strategies. We've already had 2 different in-service days that this group has led, where it's never led in the past. And this is due to the different things that I've brought forward to the group. And we basically, when we started this thing, we just tore it all apart and we rebuilt it. New members, new philosophies that we want about it. And then the fifth stage was a stage that was added later. It wasn't part of Tuckman's original model, which was adjourning. And this is basically saying that after the group leaves or disbands, what's going to be moving forward, what kind of processes are going to be in place, and what kind of benchmarks are going to be reviewed in the future. If the group needs to come back together, how are they going to carry out the work beyond the duties of the group? And a lot of times groups, they don't even put this adjourning part in there, but groups are not meant to be there forever. In some cases they're meant to put together, accomplish a task, and then adjourn. And then if something comes up again, we revisit once again. Now, when we started doing this, we had the unique, well, I shouldn't say unique, we had the leadership resistance. And no matter where you're at in an organization, resistance is always going to be one of the main issues. Yeah, and we had to really break it down as where would our resistance come from. And so to reduce resistance, we've really involved leadership a lot. Leadership had to be on the forefront of everything that was going on. In the past, we were a separate identity. We basically told leadership every once in a while what would be happening, is that we actually invited leadership to be a part of the group, that they could be a strong advocate for us as well. And me being across administration between administrator and teacher, it was just a great combination. And as a facilitator of the group, it was just a huge advantage going through this class and being able to implement this stuff as I was going. So it feels to me like this class has been one of the best classes I've had, because I've been able to immediately implement what I'm learning. So I've learned something, and before I'm writing the paper, I'm going and implementing these strategies. And I think that kind of hurt me in the end a little bit, because I just thought I was doing so much, but I didn't realize I wasn't putting it all on paper, because I was spending so much time actually doing the objectives of the course. And so in the end, it's a really great thing. Then we did I love this this quote by Berkey, is change is not necessarily resisting the change per se, but is more accurately a resistance to losing something of value to the person. And when it comes to anyone that's been a teacher Where they start getting anxious is when something's going to be taken away from them. Is it going to be an extra duty they got to do? Is it less prep time? Is it, you name it, another in service they have to do? And we had to reinforce to the teachers that we're not 100% sure what direction this is going, but we're doing this in the best interest of the students. And we are the teachers ourselves doing this, and it's not something administration is solely doing to us. This is teacher led, and we are part of this. We are part of the solution, and this has really helped us as we've gone forward. And resistance, other than right in the beginning, just the unknown of a new group in school, was tricky, but we quickly worked through it because we had representatives from throughout the school. As an indicator for our success, it's going to be simply what is the outcome? What effects have we had? Right down from our group development. How was that? And we can already see by the results put in place that this was amazingly effective in our school. The process that was put in place to let the community, our staff, the students know, and then the outcomes of our group. Those are the success factors that I have been referencing, and why I feel so confident right now at the conclusion of this course that this has actually been a tool that I've used. And then a true outcome is how have students, teachers, community members, how has everybody grown? And this is where it just puts a smile on my face. Thank you, and you guys have a good night. Hello, my name is Jared Keene, and I am doing the final recap of our capstone project for diversity and inclusion. I have to be the first to admit these past 8 weeks have been exceptionally trying for myself personally and academically, but in the end, even with a long road ahead of me, I'm still looking optimistic to the future and where it goes. And one of the best things that I've gained out of these 8 weeks is, although it may not be demonstrated or portrayed in our course writings or the reports that we've done, is that this project has actually been implementing from the start into our school, and that we are now using this as a model for our diversity group and how we went about setting up our group development within our schools using the Tuckman's model for small group development. So the end result, which we all wanted, was to implement this into our school, is already fully in effect. This has been an initiative that the school's been trying to undertake now for going on the last 3 years. But I brought this idea up right away when it was started an interview process back in week 2 and 3, and it just kind of took off from there. And kind of gonna recap everything as it goes on right now.